Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3.
I got our form, so do you feel like we are? Is Todd here?
He's here.
He's coming in.
Yeah, should I go get him?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind, and then I'll call the order. I mean, sorry, we'll start in just a second.
I think you're in the wrong place.
It's so weird.
That's weird, okay.
Yeah, that's weird.
All right, we will call to order this regular session meeting of the Park City School Board on October 18th at 3:30 p.m. We will stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Todd, can we call you up here?
No.
I know, no, it's your final no. You can sit or stand. I mean, I guess we could go around. I will too. I mean, just thank you. Thank you for your service to this district. Thank you for your time that you've spent. Thank you for being personally an amazing mentor to me when we came in during a really crazy time with a lot of change happening. I cannot thank you enough for what you have done to support us as a board every day. So we're gonna miss you a ton. So thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of the board and to be with the district. It's been a great experience, and you guys were easy to teach.
Well, I just want to reiterate that, like, you made it so easy to talk to, but learning so many of the nuances, and there are so many, from legislative to finances, that are not, for some, the natural understanding. And I appreciate there was never a time you weren't available. You always made yourself available. You spoke it in languages that made sense without being patronizing. And you really taught me a ton. I appreciate it so much. We'll miss you a lot. But I'm excited for you. You have big horizons, and we wish you the best of luck and hope that you visit us often and a lot.
He's not driving.
Yeah.
I'll be skiing
Come on.
now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
No, I want to echo what they said, and I'm not going to get emotional because
Yeah.
it's not going in. But just
Never.
being like this steady thing. And since I've been here a while, and you've been here through all the transitions, and always look to you as like the rock. Like, where are we? And you were always there, like a North Star. So thank you for that. It's an amazing character quality, and best of luck. And you will be missed. And it's really weird having you on that side of the table.
Yeah, I'm feeling awkward.
And in a suit. I mean, I don't know what to take in first, but yes. So,
It's my new uniform.
I like it. And thank you for everything. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.
I know. I know you.
So Todd was roasted by the administrators with.
Oh, okay.
Sad I wasn't here with that.
Yeah. And also.
I have my-
gift basket.
Oh, we're our
No
moment to
district
talk.
office.
Using
Oh,
again.
that's right.
Thank you.
All
Leah.
personal stuff.
Yeah, they're
And you'll get these other.
And they'll get cards. They'll
Okay,
get
they'll
cards. Well,
Yeah.
I know Andrew is on his way, and I know that this is some, I know, but the board wanted to give you something in recognition. I get to give you your name tag.
Aw.
That, and I'm gonna give you that. Thank you for the whole. And we wish you best of luck.
I can give you others. Again, I have a feeling you're not gonna drive up there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll just say, I'll see you tomorrow, Todd.
Yeah.
I know.
Lucky me, I get to see you too.
Yep.
Are you coming to the meeting?
I'll be down there as well. I
Yeah.
will see you tomorrow.
President, do you want a group picture quick?
Do you guys want it?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Come on over, Chad. It's all in the middle.
You're in the middle.
You're in the middle. No,
No,
it's
you're
you.
in the middle.
This is all
A
you.
new board picture.
We'll just have to Photoshop Andrew.
Yeah, that's true.
He'll be using his phone.
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
See you tomorrow.
Have fun. Tomorrow.
Good luck.
You're doing your good work.
Okay, we will now move on to the announcement of the new business administrator. So the board would like to welcome Jay Randall Upton to the team. So would you like to take your oath of office?
Yes.
And join us? We can just do it down here if that's easiest. So let's raise your right hand. I, Jay Randall Upton, have been duly appointed to the position of business administrator in the Park City School District.
I, Jay Randall Upton, having been duly appointed to the position of business administrator in the Park City School District,
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Welcome to the team.
Thank you so much.
I think we need to get your signature on this too. So I'll have you.
Can you join us?
And you're more than welcome to have a seat and join us if you'd like, unless you are
Okay.
off to something else.
No,
It's up
my
to-
wife's gonna go, but yeah,
Yep.
I'm happy to stay.
Great.
And I can.
Welcome.
Aw.
Thank you all.
Welcome to the team. Thank you for being here.
We want to ask you for an update.
We. Bye, Todd. Thank you.
Bye, Todd.
All right, we will move on to the consent agenda. Can I please get a motion to approve the consent agenda that includes regular session minutes of September 20th, 2022, special session minutes of September 23rd, 2022, closed session minutes of September 23rd, 2022, account payable registers of September 14th, 16th, 20th, 26th, 27th, 28th, October 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th, and 11th of 2022, personnel information, business administrator agreement, and September revenue and expenditures.
I make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as stated.
Second. Any discussion?
No.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. We will move on to employee groups. Am I not be here quite yet? They're used so.
Yeah.
We can put Tanner in the hot seat quickly.
Good afternoon. This is the operations update for the 18th of October of 22. COVID is still on our radar. It's low in the county, but we've got all our back shot mitigations in place as we have had before. But we're watching things as people start to return indoors. We're anticipating some spike. Hopefully that won't happen. But if it does happen, we want everyone to know that we're ready to ramp up very quickly to the very strict protocols that we've had in place, and we have plenty of PPE and tests on hand if we do experience an outbreak. So we're ready. We're hopeful that won't happen, but we're watching it and cautiously optimistic. From a buildings and grounds perspective, Todd Hansen and his team are finishing up $4 million in summer capital projects, and notably, you've probably seen them working on the high school roof above the art room right at the front of the school, the ladder going up and down there. Also, you've probably noticed that the district office here, we've got a bunch of construction going on. The overhang that was heading off to the north was starting to give way. So that's being shored up right now with new supports and new roof. Should be done with that in about a week. We're all ready for snow season. The equipment's all been maintained. It's all out, ready to be hooked up to the trucks. Contracts are in place. And we're busy finalizing the Park City Mountain Resort parking contract, getting finishing touches on a draft copy for the board's consideration. And we're also working through Park City Institute, possibly a memo of understanding between the two entities, between the district and PCI. Transportation, Rich and his team are still working through a critical manning situation. We do have 2 drivers in training, however, which should help us out. One is only going to be a substitute for us, but that still helps some, 1 full-time. And we have 2 other applicants potentially in the pipeline. So hopefully some salvations on the way there. We also had some coaches ask us to, if we could check them out as drivers, rather than having their coach, if they could get checked out as a driver, drive to their events as coach, and then possibly help us out in the summer. So we're going to look at doing that, and transportation will coordinate that training. Bus routes 2 and 35 for now, we're consolidating onto other routes and no longer will exist. Our dispatch, Tana, their dispatch person, did a great job of minimizing the impact on the children and the length of routes that probably won't really be that noticeable. But that will free up 2 drivers for us, which should allow possibly Rich to go back into the office and some of our mechanics not to drive every day like they have. After school transportation support for Treasure Mountain and Eckerd Hill. Today is the last day. Sorry, for high school, Treasure Mountain High School is today. But we will resume that if the driver count becomes healthy. Luckily, that does not impact all of the students, and some of them can drive. Our driver dispatcher, Tana, is back for leave, and she helped us with the route consolidation, is greatly helping us in the office with receiving phone calls. Our mechanics are driving when needed, and our 3rd mechanic, our final hire, is getting checked out as a driver to help us during flex periods as well. The new lift is installed at the garage. It's quite a mechanical device if you guys want to stop in and take a look at it. And the space available passengers are all buses. And we have no waiting lists except for the Route 35 in Jeremy. Child nutrition service, the Eckerd Hill manager is back after an extended leave, but now is extended further through November. But other than that, John, I had lunch with him today, and he said that they're fully staffed for the first time since last November, which is quite an accomplishment considering the environment we're in. And he said that the supply chain has been steady for the early part of this year, so that's another improvement. But the morale in the department is high despite the challenges, and they continue to pump out a quality product for our folks, and we're very proud of what they're doing. Human resources, Shad and his team have been working. We've been working on the business office transition with getting Randy hired and the contract out there, downloading things from Todd Halber's head into my head and Kip's head, getting Kip hired and trained. And so we think we're in a good place. We're going to hand Randy when he starts on October 31st, all the reports, annual reports done from the state of Utah by the time he walks in, along with the books closed for the preceding month. So he should have a little bit of a breather of space for a month or 2 to get your feet wet before the onslaught begins. So we're confident that we've got a good thing going on. We've been working to capture notes from Todd Halber. He's on speed dial for us right now. Kip and I have been working together along with the rest of the business office team to show up in his absence. The salary study RFP is written. HR is collaborating with the other county districts to share the expenses and the data with that RFP. And then we'll put the Park City spin on whatever our adjustments need to be made there. HR also reports a slight uptick in applications last week, if you can believe that. I got this like.
Was that me? Was that one?
Which is.
Dr. Sorensen's behind you like
That's
this.
right. And we are using, as we mentioned last week, Spark Hire as the video component for the interview process, which is helping speed things up. Recruiting efforts continue, obviously, and mitigations are in place to address any temporary shortfalls in staffing. But we still are experiencing chronic shortages in transportation, usually food service, other than this month with John, who knows what happens next week, the aquatic center and coaches. So we're still working on making that work. On the security front, we have vapor detectors now installed at all the bathrooms at the high school. Park City is working with the Summit County Sheriff's Office on the details now. We've made the selection of what vendor we're going to use for the instant notification system that will allow teachers to have a handheld device or a district device and make a lockdown notification from their desktop as a personal device. And so that's going to take some coordination, but it's a standardized product that's going to be throughout all the districts in the county. First year is going to be funded by Summit County Sheriff's Office in a grant. We're working on putting all the details together for that.
Can I ask you a question though?
Yeah.
Is that Wi-Fi based?
Yes, they'll be able to do it on their handheld devices, teachers or staff members.
Are there dead zones though over in the school or what?
You know, there are some minor dead zones, but we've been pretty diligent about working through those and putting boosters in place.
Got it.
I think we've got them all worked out at the high school. I learned a couple potentially that are going on right now in Poland, and we're getting those solved.
Great.
But that's the intention, is to have, if we can get as many teachers as possible and staff members to have it on the personal handheld device, that might be a little bit of an uphill push, but we'll also provide it perhaps on iPads or any other devices they're using in classrooms.
Great.
But what it'll do is, if a distress signal comes from a classroom, it'll give a graphic picture of where it's coming to dispatch. So dispatch will have a floor plan. They'll see it's coming from the 202 at the high school. They'll be able to transmit that picture to a cruiser, and a cruiser will be able to respond right to that site with no communication. So it's a pretty slick system if it works, and we're looking forward to trying to implement that and get everyone trained up on that. We do have Fight Back training, Fight Back Nation training for our teachers this Friday from 1 to 3 at the Ecker Auditorium. Board members are welcome to come. But basically, this is a last ditch effort. If you're confronted with an active shooter, how can you physically resist that? Obviously, we want to leave the facilities first if we can. We don't want to confront a person, but if you're in a situation where you have to confront someone, how can you successfully manage that interface? And so really good training that's been well received by people in the local area who've taken it. It's taught by military special operators who their techniques are pretty cool. And we also have a second session happening on the 4th of November if you can't make the 21st of October this Friday. We're coordinating a Park City High School mass casualty exercise with the Park City Police Department. I mentioned that last month. Likely it'll be February. And the safety committee is having the first meeting on the November 15th from 10 till noon. And as I'd like to remind everyone, we'll have Chevron donuts there for any board members who are interested. So I'm going to give you a short update on our construction that's going on. As I've mentioned last month, we have schools that are under jurisdiction of the county, and we got schools that are under jurisdiction of the city. So let's talk about the county schools first. As you know, Jeremy, we got the conditional use permit secured. We're full construction right now there. We now are putting the geo piers, footings, foundation, and that work all started on the 20th of September. So we're doing a nice job catching up there and getting us working towards getting back on schedule. Ecker Hill Middle School, bid package 1, which is the bus lot. If you've driven by there, you've noticed that the asphalt is gone, that the curb is gone. We have the Utah State Board of Education project number. We had the on-site meeting with the county yesterday to give us approval. We'll just clean up a few details before we have the physical document in hand, but we've been coordinating closely with the county. And so we're progress is going along there. Bid package 2 for Edward Hill Middle School is the overall project, the actual building of the buildings, not just the lot. And so we've submitted the conditional use permit and rezone application back in July. We're just about there to get the Utah State Board of Education project number assigned. We get about 75% of the work done with that. But we were successful on the 28th of September in soliciting the county council for a variance for height. We got a 3-2 vote on that, but at least we got the variance. The package now is moving to the Snyderville Basin Planning Commission for a rezone and conditional use permit consideration on the 8th of November, then back to the county council for final approval, we hope mid-November sometime. So JD and the MOCA team anticipate being full construction on Ecker outside of the bus lot by late November. Harley's Park and Eck Trailside, we're obviously in the first stages of coordination with the county, since those are going to be going on next summer. We anticipate the construction documents, the initial phase, 22nd of September or December from Harley's and the 23rd of March from Trailside. And we're going through the design phases right now. We anticipate construction of both those projects to begin on the 5th of June. The city schools, at McClellan, the conditional use permit application is complete. The state project number application is about 75% complete, but we anticipate a restart soon with just the state project number prior to final CUP approval by the Parks and Planning Commission. We're working closely with the city to make sure we don't step on any toes and make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and to Park City's credit, they've been cooperating nicely with us the whole time. We anticipate being back in the full construction mode there on the 31st of October. Park City High School bid package number 1, which is the site civil work, grading, utility relocation, that kind of work. We submitted for USBE project number on the 11th of October. We're anticipating a restart soon with the state project number prior to final CUP by the Park City Planning Commission, and again, coordinate closely with the city. The Park City High School bid package number 2, which again is an overall project. The conditional use permit and rezone applications are complete. We're actually at 5 o'clock today. Our height variance request is being considered by the Board of Adjustments. JD from MOCA and I will jump on that call as soon as we're done here with the board meeting. Hopefully we'll get that support tonight. And then the conditional use permit and rezone application will be considered by the Park City Planning Commission on the 26th of October. So the USBE project number application is about 75% complete, just waiting some plan reviews. And we anticipate, again, being back in full construction there by the 31st of October. Every week we've been posting construction updates now to the construction tile on the website for people who are interested. It contains both a layman's narrative of the work that's going on, along with a spreadsheet that shows graphically where the projects are in the approval process. So you can refer anyone who's requiring information to that site. We also do have JD from our owner's rep team from MOCA here, if anyone has any in-depth questions that I can answer.
How you doing, JD?
I don't know about in depth, but
JD's been running the coordination for us on a lot of these projects, but doing a fantastic job. And my hat's off to him. He's been beating a lot of crow on our behalf, so we appreciate that.
Does anybody have any questions for JD?
Do not.
Thank you for the update. I know you guys have to be on a call, so I'll let you guys head on to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. But do you just want to come join us anyways?
Sure.
Your number's up? No, don't worry about it. We started a little bit early today, so
It's all good.
apparently not everybody got the memo.
Yeah, it's all good.
They didn't tell everyone.
No, easy nothing. I'll feel so bad. I have another meeting I have to get to anyway, so it'll be quick. I'll be in and out. So good to see you all again. PCA wants to again reiterate our appreciation for the district and school board involving teachers and librarians in the process of navigating policy 9050 and 9051. We appreciate having a seat at the table. We know these policies impact the whole district, students, parents, teachers, administrators, board members, and everyone else. And we commend the effort to get the policy right in the context of state law. We'd like to make a similar point regarding the new teacher evaluations. PCA would like to thank Dr. Sorensen and the rest of the district team for taking our feedback about the evaluations and applying it to the new tool. We believe this has made the evaluation tool better for teachers and site administrators. We know this has been kind of a long process. We just appreciate kind of some immediate feedback we gave, got to take it into consideration and kind of applied right away, which is cool. So we appreciated that. Lastly, PCA is looking forward to starting compensation negotiations later this school year. Hopefully the audit's the right word, but that's what we're going with for now. Of Park City and the rest of Summit and Wasatch counties move smoothly, and we can begin the process once the audit is finished. That's it for me. I'm easy today.
Does anybody have anything?
Thank you.
No,
I know it's been
thanks for
rough
everything.
all
Yeah,
as well.
thank you guys for all of your input and,
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks. Phil.
yeah. thanks.
Yeah, have a good night.
Yeah.
Perfect. Zach, do you have your update you'd like to give us?
Yep. So I think it was last week we had Live Like Sam Day, and then I'm forgetting all the details for that. Well, some of them, but what Student Council did was during the week we put up a bunch of like kindness stuff, because Live Like Sam is about like being kind to other people. So outside the student store, we had our bulletin board, which we put sticky notes on, which was take a sticky, leave a sticky, and you could write kind messages to your friends or other people you wanted to. So that's what Student Council did for that. We are also doing a shoe drive at the high school right now, and we will eventually get to the elementary schools as well as Ecor. We just haven't got around to that yet. We've been a little busy. And then, so it's for Souls, and it's donating shoes to third world countries. And brief thing about that. Now, we have 2 events going up that Student Council is putting on. We have the Halloween movie night, which is on the 25th. We managed to get a cinema at Redstone, which should be really cool. So we have limited tickets. So if you want to go, get tickets now. And it should really be a fun event, especially since we are putting it at the movie theater in town. So should be very cool. And then the second event, we have Zombie Night, which is on the 27th. It is a giant game of freeze tag that Student Council puts on every year. It is a super fun event, and it's really fun to attend.
And is that just for 9th through 12th grade, the zombie event? And you know, there was some talk about maybe bringing in the younger, but you guys have decided to keep it with.
We haven't talked much about doing the younger grades yet. That should hopefully become a topic tomorrow.
Okay.
And so that's still up in the air.
Just glad you guys can do it.
I was just gonna say that kindness thing you guys did was amazing. Like she came home with a bucket of random kindness notes from people I didn't even know. It was amazing. It was really cute. So that was, tell them that was fun.
It's awesome.
It was great.
Thank you.
So good.
Superintendent.
Excellent. So I have a shorter PowerPoint this month, not 25 slides. It's maybe only like 6 or 8 or something. So it's a little shorter, a little more concise. Lori, thanks. So our collective work, of course, together is to ensure safety, achievement, and opportunities for all of our youth. Go ahead. And this month, I'll talk just briefly about some of our district goals, show you one slide from our data dashboard, which resides on the district website under data and statistics. Talk a little bit about policies, and then our equity, access, and opportunity committee that is ongoing. This is National Principals Month, so we're excited to recognize our principals and honor all of the good work that's happening throughout the schools. Our mission, of course, is to inspire and support all students equitably to achieve their academic and social potential. So we try to focus any of our decision making in that vein. That's the North Star. And our vision, of course, is student-centered with a focus and emphasis on whole child, where our students are safe, supported, engaged, challenged, and healthy. And that is a national definition of whole child philosophy and supporting healthy development of our youth. Our goals for this year include 3 key areas: leadership, teaching and learning, and operations and resources. And we are really working consistently as a system to prepare all of our students for, that should say career. Of course, career is a good word too, but career, college, and life-ready success, promoting safe, supportive, equitable, and inclusive school learning environments. And we are aligning our efforts towards that UCHUP to the graduate. So that's what like a dashboard is about. That's the way the state accountability system is moving. It's really about more than just academics and recognizing all those other things that are happening in the schools, like things Zach is talking about, the different service projects, the leadership opportunities, and the way we're trying to grow and prepare youth for jobs within our community and beyond once they graduate. So last year's senior class reported 80% of our seniors having a job outside of school. So we really want kids to be able to go into the community and workforce feeling very confident and being able to interview and follow up with those commitments and responsibilities. In teaching and learning, we are focused on high quality professional development experiences for staff. So for instance, PCEA yesterday came and said, our teachers really want a little bit more training on behavior management or de-escalation strategies. And in our district, we have 2 people who are trained in the MANT de-escalation system. So they're able to then go to the schools on Fridays when we have afternoon training, and they're able to provide that for the teachers that would like to learn more about that. So we have things even in-house to help that. We give teachers an awful lot of choice in what they'd like to study, what they'd like to improve on. So they have lots of different options and opportunities. We also started Letters Professional Learning. That is a statewide effort to really bolster training in early literacy acquisition. And one of the authors of Letters is actually a grandparent in our district, and her grandchildren go to school here, and she was able to kick off the opening, and she was able to be with PC Reads. That was really exciting. So kind of fun October 6th activity. In operations and resources, we are always looking at our budget, our fiscal management. And the first year I was here, Todd secured a pathway to the Meritorious Budget Award, but these last 3 years, we've earned the award, and actually he got the notification. It's your little plaque yet, but he got the notification that we got that designation once again. So no pressure, Randy, but beyond the budget. Beyond the budget, it's about 100 hours. Yeah, so massive, about 100 hours worth of work beyond. Trying to format the narrative. So there's lots of good models. We have lots of good models. Mike, of course, also has experience with that program and project, but it's nice to have an outside entity review if the narrative is making sense and if we are indeed aligning our resources towards what we're saying our key goals are. And we've been able to demonstrate that. So that's a great pride point, I think, for the district and for the business services department for sure. But it takes a lot of work to get that done. We're also very committed to 21st century learning tools. And that's, of course, being adept at using different kinds of technologies, but we know that personalized and competency-based learning isn't only about technology, but we just want to bolster, make sure our infrastructure is working well and all of those things, make sure the kids, students have a great refresh cycle and all of that. So those are some of the key goals. All right, so data and stats, let's see, that's supposed to have a cute little picture, but I don't see the picture. It did not show up. Let me see if I can. Yeah, and there is. So if you go to the Park City School District website, we actually do have a wonderful. I'm gonna do a quick picture here. It's not showing up.
Like your mug showing up.
It's not true. All right. Yeah, it looks like your mug's See, the irony, right? You talk about being adept at technology, and what happens? You don't have a picture in the slide that you want to operate. But our students would never do that. They would actually have. Oh, you know what? It won't work because you have a copy, right? You don't have a live one. And you have the live one up. I have the the live one up. All right, 1 second, but I can fix it. I can fix it. Look. Oh, go ahead and refresh, Lori. How fun is that? That works. All right, let's see if it refreshes. But anyway, under the data and statistics tab on the district website, there is a strategic dashboard that's updated a couple of times a year. So it is not updated every day or every month or anything like that, but it gives a good couple of times a year. Caitlin O'Connor, who's our data and stats person, provides the information for this. So it talks about things like our enrollment. So this year we have 4,350 K-12 students, about another 150 in preschool, so right around that 400, 4,500 mark. We have about 16% of our kids who are economically disadvantaged, 13% who achieve or who receive some English learner support, approximately 9% of students with identified learning differences, and about 94% student attendance, which is great. We want to keep kids healthy and in school. So yeah, that's just one of the dashboards, but it goes into all the different areas. It has a teaching and learning area and an operations area, and you can scroll through those. So anyway, that's, sorry you don't have the visuals. Visuals more fun.
We'll add it and upload it on Board Docs.
Perfect. Thanks. Excellent. Equity, access, and opportunity, we do talk about each month, and we talk about different strategies we're trying as a school and district to ensure we are working towards an inclusive, multicultural, supportive district with lots of practices that help bolster our students. So lots of positive feedback from having Yom Kippur off as a school holiday. And the PCEA educators have asked if we could consider that in calendars going forward as well. And we did have people talk about why the day was long in schools. And so that was seen as a positive by the parent community, student community, and educators. So that was very positive. Next slide is, again, just a reminder of what we're doing in that committee. We're reviewing 3 model policies and looking at what kind of language you want as board above and beyond, just our typical mission and vision statement. And really the equitable practices that looks at, you know, what is our data? What is our data telling us? Are we making decisions to improve that data? So it's keeping it very data driven. So I'm hoping that will help move that needle, right? That's the goal always for our students. We are also in the process of commissioning an external assessment. You know, what does our policy look like from an equity lens? What do our student scores look like? And that's a university that will partner with us. And we're hoping to go with a no cost option. So that's exciting. We are ensuring that the state required training modules are deployed. There's currently only 1 module available. And then our quarterly meetings do review data aligned to the current state and ideal outcomes for our students. The next slide, I think you've seen before. Look at that. My graphics are not working well today. But that we are safe, supportive, compassionate, and hardworking. So those are the indicators that the high school staff and students selected as part of their PBIS approach. So I love it because it still goes with the PCHS acronym, all kinds of acronyms in education, as you know. From a policy lens, we are working tonight on several policies. One of them, you all know, is updating to the existing policy 9050 to align that to make sure House Bill 374 is addressed within that comprehensive policy. We did receive about 60 comments on that policy, and those comments were incorporated as best as we could with some of the parameters of that policy. So that, I imagine, is still going to be part of our ongoing conversation. But again, the work is ongoing. And I think we may have Lindsay here in case we have questions. But we have other policies also up for approval tonight. Updates to employee ethics, career and college readiness programming, our eligibility for participation in student activities, student search and seizure in case there is ever anything within the school that shouldn't be, like drugs or alcohol. And then employee student communicable diseases, the guidelines are always, you know, changing. I did have my boosters yesterday for both flu and COVID, but I still do. My arms are a little sore, but we are here. We were all threatened to not be gone today. And then there are lots of ways to learn about the school district. We don't use Facebook very much, but we do try to push different accolades and recognitions so that you can see the great things going on. The students do an awesome job with the Instagram. Oh my gosh, you guys in the senior class do an awesome job. Students also push out to Twitter, and the district pushes out some news to Twitter as well. But one of the things we do is whenever we do have a news release or an information release, it actually goes out to 150 different news agencies, not just locally, but statewide. So we try to use those news releases as we can to get the word out. It's a WordPress blog, but it actually is ranked as a news agency and actually won national recognition in 2019. Excellent. Any questions for me?
No, thank you.
All right, that was shorter though, right? It was shorter other than me looking for pictures.
Thank you. All right, we will move on, since we already had our facilities update, we will move on to policies for posting. I'm actually gonna kind of do what we did for our last meeting. I'm gonna pull policy, or sorry, no, not on this one. So anyways, I'm sorry. So can I get a motion to approve the following policies for posting? Policy 9091, data governance. Policy 9095, standardized testing. Policy 10025, homeschool, private school, charter school, and dual enrollment. Policy 10090, prohibition of corporal punishment, and policy 10115, administering of medication to students.
I make a motion to post these policies as stated.
Second.
Do we have any discussion on these policies?
And a little note.
Yes,
So a
absolutely.
little note, I do want to let you know, or just a quick reminder, that a lot of these policies, it's not that, when I was a teacher and as a parent, I always thought when a policy was posted, it was something happened that was wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why they got posted. And I was always concerned about that. And then when I got into the administrative world, I learned that a lot of these, especially these that are posted today, we really have them on a 5-year cycle. So sometimes there are very non-substantive changes, but there's a new legal reference or a new caveat that needs to be integrated into the policy. So for any of these, they don't necessarily have any individual issue that has emerged. These are really just on a 5-year cycle. So that's what these are.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Then they are typically posted for the 20 days, and then we do take public comment next time if anybody has any concerns with it.
Okay, so all in favor of posting?
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right, so policies for adoption. This is the one where I'm gonna adopt all, and then we'll pull out 90, 50 and have, because I feel like it's gonna have a little bit more of a robust discussion. So can I get a motion to adopt policies 7005, employee ethics, policy 9085, college and career readiness, policy 10030, eligibility for participation in student activities, policy 10080, student search, and policy 10110, employee and student communicable disease.
I make a motion to adopt policies as stated.
Second. Do we have any discussion with those? Perfect. All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. All right, so I feel like I'm gonna take space because do we want?
Oh, that clock may not be right. Yeah, no, it is 4:13.
No, but it's not public comments until 5.
We would always start with the people here and then.
And then at 5 o'clock, we can ask here. So Lori, do you mind? And I'm gonna go down to public comment because I have a sneaking suspicion that quite a bit of the public comment is going to be about the next policy after adoption. So to hear from everyone. So I will read a statement. The Board of Education wants to hear live input from community members at our meetings. In order to respect and preserve the time allotted each presenter on the agenda, each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers representing a group are limited to 5 minutes. If you wish to address the board, please read and complete the blue public comment sheet. So if you have not done that and you're here, and then pass it to Lori. You will be invited to the rostrum to speak in the order in which the form was received. Please state your name clearly for the record. The Board of Education expects that all public comment will be polite, respectful, and accurate. Please refrain from specifically identifying personnel. Personnel issues are not appropriate for public comment. Therefore, such comments will not be allowed. I will also reiterate, because of the book issue, if you are coming to speak about a specific book, we do have one book up for review. You cannot grandstand the book. You cannot put comments out from any of the books. We are the final appeal process. And if you decide to do that, it actually disqualifies us from being able to look at that book. Thank you. Okay, so I will start with Diane Livingston.
Hello again.
Hi Diane, how are
New
you?
Year's. Okay, gotta watch the time. Probably have 5 minutes, so I'm gonna try and make it short.
Are you here for a group or yourself?
Just myself.
No, then you have 3 minutes.
I know.
Okay,
So I can say I have to watch the time. Okay, I've heard a lot about district people who are supporting teachers. It's been a lot, I mean, it sounds like it's really kind of a majority that is supporting the teachers and what they want to be able to teach in the classroom. And so today I've decided to support students. I'm here for the 1 out of 4 who will be sexually abused by the time they graduate from our school district. That's the statistic right now. And here may have a trigger reading something that is in their lived reality here at the school. I'm here for the student who didn't opt out because they didn't know if they should, but wish they had. I'm here for the student who struggles with pornography and just wants to get it out of her head, but continues to be confronted with it at our school. She should have a safe place, and Utah Law HB 374 was passed to create such a space. But when we look at the proposed policy that we have today, which is supposed to comply with HB 374, it almost feels like it's designed to resist compliance. And let me share with you what I mean. First of all, our policy asserts, quote, intellectual and academic freedom in book selection, but makes no mention of avoiding sensitive content while selecting new books, as HB 374 requires. Second, it appears the district will not be proactively reviewing currently approved books. The policy there is to wait for an appeal, which I don't feel like is our role as parents, to find books and then appeal in order for our school district to follow policy written by the Utah State. The pacing would, when you look at the policy, it would be a handful of books reviewed at a year. When you look at the number of books that we have sensitive in our shelves today, it's going to take about 2 decades to look at these books. We also have a concern concerning the committee structure. When you look at the appeal committees, there is one parent serving on the very lowest level. And beyond that, it is the majority of district people who are serving on these committees. Let me refer back to the overwhelming sentiment of our district people to support teachers having the choice of books that they want. I mean, it follows. It's going to be really difficult to pull out a book. And also, they have to look not only at the guidelines of HB 374, but they have to look at First Amendment jurisprudence. So again, that's really challenging to get to people when we use that. Okay. Lastly, okay.
So I am going to keep you guys all the 3 minutes because I have quite a few of you. Thank you for your time. Right. Tanya Keller.
Thanks so much for giving me a chance to express my thoughts. My name is Tanya Keller, and I have 3 kids in the school district. I've heard a lot of negative comments about parents being involved in the decision-making process for the books that our kids read. So I just kind of wanted to share my simple thoughts as a mom. But when I'm thinking about taking my kids to a movie, the Motion Picture Association has created a rating system. We all know it, we're familiar with it. PG is parental guidance suggested. And under that, it says parents are urged to give guidance, may contain some material parents might not like for their children. PG-13 is parents strongly cautioned. Under that, it says parents are urged to be cautious. Some material may be inappropriate for pre-teenagers. R is restricted. Under that, it says contains some adult material. Parents are urged to learn more about the film before taking their young children with them. What I find astonishing about this is how many times they refer to parents. They clearly want parents to educate themselves about the movie and make a decision if it's age appropriate for their children. They're also not afraid to say some things are not age appropriate for children. So what I'm wondering is why parents, when we want to be involved in the books our kids are reading, why we're judged or even kind of vilified right now we're told to maybe trust the teachers or trust the school district, that they know what's best for our children. But the Motion Picture Association isn't asking us to trust the producers or the movie theaters to tell us what our kids should watch. They want the parents to be involved, and we want to be involved. We should be involved. For the parents. Determining a school curriculum isn't a question of censorship for me. It's the public schools. We're the public. We are the public. The students are our children. We are their parents. We should be involved in the curriculum. I just wanted to share that today about parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, Todd, Kathy. Sorry.
Thank you. In case you don't know me, my name is Kathy Pratchett. But I did have one quick question. I just now noticed you guys reposted a 1018 of the 950 policy. What is different from the 1012?
There was just a typo.
One typo?
One
Other than
typo,
that,
it
it's the
said
same?
3 in parentheses and it should have said.
Other than that, it's exactly the
It's
same as
exactly the
1012?
same.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So my comments this afternoon are in addition to those suggested in my Friday, October 14th email. I'm trusting that that correspondence will be reviewed and considered in addition to my brief comments today in response to the latest iteration of an edited 9050 policy. Now, while our school district is looking to create a policy to weed out sexually explicit material in our schools, let's also not forget to include language in that policy to keep our schools from acquiring more of this explicit material in the future. Please notice in all the current edits of 9050, no one has thought to include a bullet point under selection criteria for keeping out sensitive material. This item clearly needs to be added to section V.C.3 and V.C.5. Why might it be necessary to add it? Well, it wasn't spelled out clearly for someone in the past, because this was a past document that would tell us what we'd allow into our schools. And now we're dealing with trying to remove sexually explicit material. So perhaps you might even investigate how some of the sexually explicit books made their way into the schools in the past and add a line item in the policy to help prevent something like that happening in the future. Were they donated? Did they actually go through a documented process of selection? These types of questions might shed light on where the current 9050 policy has holes. And then lastly, my final and absolutely most important suggestion related to this policy creation is that no matter what iteration you all ultimately select for the policy, clear communication with parents and students surrounding challenged material needs to be written into the final policy, and it is not currently in here. At least not any version I've reviewed. A generic disclosure is not enough information. This one communication requirement written into the policy and followed could help solve a multitude of problems for the district in the future. Again, thank you for taking time to hear my additional thoughts. I hope you will create and implement policies that will keep our kids safe from the pornography that has been creeping into our schools in the form of literature.
Andrea?
Hi. My name is Andrea Nee, and I have 2 children that currently attend schools in the district. The board has repeatedly said they believe policy 9050 works well in regards to sensitive materials in schools. I would like to express that the proposed review process is inherently biased and does not allow the district to police itself effectively. The most flawed piece includes the fact that the voting committee consists of staff that teach the material. This creates an obvious conflict of interest. In addition, there is a great flaw in the library materials review committee process. The language in the policy states, this review requires application of both state and federal law, including the law under the First Amendment to the United States Constitution and related jurisprudence. So the committee is allowed to interpret First Amendment jurisprudence. and federal law? Do they have law degrees? What's the guidance for this in the policy? This allows a broad sweep of bias to be applied, even if the material contains pornography as defined by Utah state law. I'd like to now address the severity of the sexual explicit materials that's in PCSD libraries. A lot of parents make assumptions, or public, excuse me, make assumptions that the parental objection to certain books is related to ideologies, politics, or religion. This is not the case for our family. We simply do not want our children reading sexually explicit materials in the schools that are not approved health material. By that, I don't mean there should be no sex, particularly no reference to sex, particularly in high school materials like To Kill a Mockingbird. That's one thing. There's references to sex and rape. However, there's not explicit descriptions of those acts. In contrast, there are 2 books in Treasure Library. One includes depictions of child pornography, including a passage that describes 8-year-old children licking a man's genitals. Another, a Treasure, has a graphic drawn depiction of couple engaged in oral sex. Two novels I'd like to highlight at Ever. One, it describes numerous sexual encounters in detail, and another is filled to the max with excessive drug use that includes heroin, has rape and sex in it. This is not appropriate materials for 11 to 14-year-olds in the schools. HB 374, the USBE and the Utah AG all clearly state that our library material must initially be a collection that adheres to the law. On this matter, you must step up to ensure it's like your library and instructional materials follow the law. Relying primarily on external parental student-initiated review process is not a suitable alternative. I ask that you instruct district administration to propose additional procedures to ensure timely compliance with HB 374. Thank you.
Nick Miller.
Thank you. I appreciate all the board does for our children. Want to just add on that per Utah Education Rule 277-217-2, this is things that teachers are not allowed to possess. Number 16, knowingly possess while at school or any school-related activity, any pornographic or indecent material in any form. 17, use school equipment to intentionally view, create, distribute, or store pornographic or indecent material in any form. 18, knowingly use, view, create, distribute, or store pornographic and indecent material involving children. 19, expose students to material educator knows or should have known to be inappropriate given the age and maturity of the students. Don't put your teachers at risk to follow this rule. I've got 4 children. They've got 5 cousins that are African American and 2 uncles. I don't think it's appropriate that we have books that degrade African Americans and related to bestiality. I think that's crossing way over the line and inappropriate, and that's played out throughout multiple school boards throughout the country. Please make a leadership decision and get rid of this filth from our public school system. Thank you.
Renee Miller.
9 years. 9 years. 9 years. Is this the best our district can provide for our children for the past 9 years? This book is defended passionately, and I wonder why. Last month, a teacher, an English teacher, defended it with tears, stating this sensitive material stimulates conversation. Against parents' pleas, this sex offending author was invited into our high school. Look at the write-up in the Park Record in 2013.
This book violates Utah's Title 76 Sexual Explicit Act 76-10-1201, 1234, and 1235, and 1236. It also violates Utah's Education Rule 277, 217, and 2, Section 16, 17, 18, and 19. To possess, distribute, use, store, or expose students to indecent material. What conversations does a book stimulate that says niggers fucking buffalo? What kind of conversation does a book that says I sit in the bathroom for hours masturbating? Are we grooming future pornography addicts? Is that the education we're providing? Pedophilia, it talks about teachers hugging students and feeling the erection. What kind of education is this? Why would a teacher cry in an English class, an English teacher, that this stimulates conversation? What kind of stimulation is this teacher seeking amongst my children? I have 4 students that have gotten an education. 2 of them already graduated and on to college, and 2 more coming through. And I missed it because they read this or were exposed to this back in since 2013. What kind of education is this? I have volunteered hundreds of hours of my children's schools. If I went into the classroom and I cited more abortion is murder, how quickly do you think you would have me thrown out? But yet, this is violating multiple laws, multiple. And I wonder, where is our sheriff coming after all of you? Where is our sheriff going after the principal? Where is our sheriff going after the school district and the Jill Galdia? My son, 17-year-old, was fined hundreds of dollars today for a traffic violation, and there was no probable cause. There is probable cause here. You are harming our children. You are creating future pornography addicts. Where is all this? Who is behind these books? That's what I want to know, because vaping has been just sued for $400 million because they've been grooming our children. Stop grooming our children.
Thank you for your.
I'm Mara Lesher, and I've got a very different point of view, so might upset some people, but I appreciate everybody's feelings on this. The first thing I want to say is I've sometimes found with the district that they're very defensive of the policies. I think what everybody wants here, and I know what I would like, is to come up with a solution that appeals to the parents and the teachers and everybody else. On that note, I'd like to say I'm adamantly against banning books. I think that's a slippery slope that can lead to stifling open-minded thought. That being said, I'm here today because I've been surprised by some of the literature that my daughter was given in this English program, and I am very open-minded when it comes to books. I have a daughter who graduated from the high school in 2022 and a son that will graduate in 2024. I have always reviewed their English class books with them and read the books while my kids were doing so. There were 2 books that my daughter read that, frankly, I found shocking. The first was a book called Speak, which she read in the 8th grade, I believe. This is a book about a girl who's raped and then the struggles she goes through in not telling anyone about it. My daughter was only 12 at the time and did not even understand what the book was about. Reading the book with my daughter allowed me to have an extremely meaningful conversation with her about rape and how to handle things if she were ever raped or ever had a friend that she thought may have been raped. I love that we read this book together, but I could not help but feel that I would be very upset if my daughter had read that book without an interactive conversation with me. That was very important. Likewise, she read a book called Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe in 9th grade. This book is about a child who did not want to be gay, that was convinced by everyone around him that he was gay, and finally comes to accept that he is. I really disagreed with this book as something that would be presented in a school environment, although I had no problem with my daughter reading it so we could have a good discussion about it. I think that reading these somewhat controversial books can be very beneficial for opening up dialogue, but I worry that in the absence of that dialogue, the books can be very harmful. I strongly believe that the schools should disclose to parents 2 things. One, what the agenda is in choosing the books that they choose. There is so much good literature out there. Why are we choosing these particular books? Two, what the book choices are for the children. When a book choice is presented, a sheet should go home to parents telling them what books their child has the choice of reading and asking for parent approval of that choice. If there is no parent consent, the child should be given a traditional, non-controversial book. These are two easy fixes that can allow for an open-minded reading program in the school without aggravating our community members who wish to have more control over what their children read.
Kathy Madigan? Mark? No. Now you're good,
I
Kathy.
didn't get too far.
First of all, thank you again. You met me last month, so I'll keep this very brief. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk. Like Laura, I sense that my opinion is a little bit different from most of the people commenting today. I just wanted to offer my comments in support of the adoption of Board Policy 9050 as I read it on October 3rd when it was distributed. On the question of parental screening and advance approval of materials for classroom use, it's imperative that our educators remain the arbitrators of utility and appropriateness. If a teacher has 30 students in a class, that means 60 parents with 60 opinions about what is acceptable and what is not for use in the class. All 60 parents would need to read all the materials and express their opinion before the start of lessons. This would have to be repeated every time a new set of students registered for the class. On the suggestion that some materials scheduled for use in the classroom may contain sensitive subjects or ideas, an individual can already opt out of those specific lessons and choose an alternate assignment. On the claim that a long list of titles currently in some of our district school libraries should be pulled for inappropriate content, our certified teacher librarians are highly skilled, well-trained, and ready to guide any student who asks to material they can engage with comfortably. The fastest way to get someone to read a book is to announce that it should be eliminated. After the McMinn County School District in Tennessee voted to ban the graphic novel Mouse in January, it rose to the #1 best-selling book on Amazon within days. When asked about the challenge to his book, the author Art Spiegelman answered that maybe they want to teach a nicer Holocaust. It's 2022. We have worse things to be afraid of than books. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We can talk about Jackson Smith.
I just want to thank the board for hearing me out real quick. I am a current student of Park City School District. I'm a senior graduating class of 2023. And I'd like to make my opinion known on the issue of the HB 374. Thank you so much. We students have tried very hard and have been dealing with books for most of our lifetime. We've been reading material who, quite frankly, we've been sort of bored with, and we've had interesting experiences with many different pieces of literature. It is my experience and my peers' experience that book, both banning and the institution therein, has caused nothing but harm to the learning experience. Multiple, and I mean multiple, of my fellow compatriots, my fellow student peers have had books banned for XYZ reasons. Many books have been banned across multiple different states for LGBTQ topics, for topics related to race, for topics related to gender, for topics related to things that, quite frankly, our generation needs to learn about. Schools are meant to teach. Schools are meant to open up experiences and are meant to teach the student body what they are and who they are. They are meant to teach you how to think, not what to think. I believe that the current bill as, the current district's, policy, thank you so much. I believe the current district's policy is more than sufficient, considering what us students have to deal with and considering the fact that we are mature enough to deal with what has been given to us. Thank you for your time.
Miriam?
Hi, thanks again for having us all talk. And as I said last month, I had kids in this district for a long time. My son brought home a book I didn't like, much like Laura Lesher. It engendered a really interesting conversation. I deeply, deeply appreciate teachers who have spent and librarians who have spent careers learning what's appropriate for our kids. And I am so appreciative that when my kids were in this system, and now it is very easy to opt out if you don't want your child to read a book. I never did, but I really understand why some people want to, and I appreciate what the policy of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen, Carmen?
My name is Kristen Harmon. I've lived in Park City with my family since 1999. We have 5 children. 2 of them have already graduated. I also grew up in Park City, graduated in 1992 from Park City School. I am disappointed in the district's response to HB 374 and the proposed policy 9051, which is now 9050. As one teacher stated in the September 25th school board meeting, no teacher anywhere is teaching pornography. That's not what we do. That's not who we are. I agree that no teacher is teaching pornography, but it has seeped into much of the literature that they're using in the classroom and is freely available in the libraries. An extensive list of the books containing the sensitive material has been circulating. The list that I have seen has 10 books from Eckerd Hill Middle School and 50 or 60 plus from Treasure Mountain. The sexual scenes in these books do not include partners in healthy relationships, nor do they portray any kind of respect between partners or towards sex in general, but even explicit scenes of this nature are not appropriate for minors and is against Utah law. I'm not afraid of sex, as was implied in a recent KPCW interview on this matter, but I am afraid of the damage pornography can cause to our youth. The majority of the books in question, including 5 of the 10 from Eckerd Hill Middle School, contain repeated explicit scenes of sexual assault and molestation, including rape of minors and children, violent sex, vulgar sexual fantasies, masturbation, and unhealthy, disappointing sexual encounters between consenting minors. The general language used in regard to sexual experiences is derogatory and obscene. This kind of material is not necessary, it's harmful, it's even traumatic. It does not belong in the school as HB 374 has established. It does not contribute to positive, healthy classroom discussions on any issue. I am confident teachers can find literature that allows them to have rich, meaningful discussions about a variety of topics, even sensitive topics that need to be talked about, that are not filled with such explicit writing. The student laptops filter information that is not appropriate for our minors. Movies that are really, and including the books that are in question, movies that are PG-13 and R are not to be shown in the classrooms. The same sensitive material blocked on laptops and in movies does not magically become educationally necessary, enriching, or appropriate when put in written form. Pornography is pornography, whether it's on a screen or in a book. I just ask you to remove the literature that contains such sensitive material. The current proposed 9050 has many flaws, especially the significant amount of time it will take to challenge the plethora of books that are already clearly in violation of HB 374. Please do what is right for our children and follow the law. Rid the libraries of explicit, derogatory, violent, and unhealthy sexual scenes. Encourage teachers to seek out great literature. Great literature can and often does deal with sensitive topics of humanity, create a space for healthy debates, but is free of pornography. Thank you.
Before we move on, yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. If we have any more blue sheets that are out there, if you guys, especially if it's about the same topic, please bring them up and yeah. Do you just want to name the first one, Lori?
Susan Witt.
Can I use that to put notes on there?
Okay.
Hi, I'm Susan Witt. I wasn't planning on speaking today. And I don't know why we can't reference a specific book because my daughter came home and read it in a few hours and said that was terrible. And so I skimmed it and I was reading, you know, about the N-word, effing buffaloes, and then her 12-year-old sister. We got to have a conversation about bestiality, and you know, maybe some families aren't ready to have those conversations about bestiality. You know, I have no problem with talking to my kids about sex. I read them the whole series about it. It's not about that. It's about forcing something down our throats that is just, I mean, the book, I'm sure y'all know which one I'm talking about, glorifies masturbation. And I have an 18-year-old son who struggled with pornography. And pornography is an epidemic in our country that we don't talk about. I would love to talk about that, but I don't want to introduce to my kids that being in the bathroom for 3 hours is normal or okay, or that you would win a prize for it. Sorry. Anyway, it's not that I'm a prude and I can't talk to my kids, because like I said, I have an 18-year-old who loves to use the N-word and who, you know, we came to Utah because he was struggling with all of these things and took him to a boys' home there. And now here is my daughter coming home with this stuff. And it is triggering and it's not healthy. And there's no great meaningful conversation that came out of it. My daughter didn't, I said, do you want to talk about this? She was like, no, she's lived through it. She doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't want to read in a book. You know, my daughter who was in dance, which, you know, that whole world struggles with eating disorders. And in this book, it talks about a guy who says that this girl is a hot anorexic. I mean, we talk about keeping our children safe and all of these things, but to put a message out there that being anorexic is hot to a 14-year-old girl who's already struggling with image, to me is not healthy and is not protecting our children. So I don't want to tell teachers what to do. I don't want to be involved. I understand 60 parents, 60 this and that. I trust that my child is safe and won't come home with this kind of material. And so no, I don't want to tell teachers how to do their job. And I've heard from some friends here that this particular book has been controversial, and I just don't know why parents are having to continue to fight this fight when so many people have had similar reactions or opinions about it. So, and my daughters love to read, and the comment about, oh, tell a kid not to read something. Well, I could tell my son not to read Playboy, and yeah, of course he's gonna read it, but anyway, that's all I have. Thanks.
Alicia.
Hi, I'm new to Park City. My name is Alicia Berger-Gorder. I have a student in Treasure Mountain, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I made some notes. I wasn't sure I was going to speak. I come from Connecticut, which is a different state in terms of a lot of these issues. And I know you come from Connecticut too, in Greenwich. What I wanted to just share is that I'm sure there's political blowback for being late to signing on to a policy. I'm really curious to see how that affects our district, because I'm sure it's a possibility that it will. So I really deeply appreciate that you're all willing to put that on the burner in front of the entire state and nation so that we can discuss this and you can hear what parents have to say. I think it's really important because we're all stakeholders, right? Like we're customers here too. And again, so what I wanted to say, so thank you for thinking about that in terms of policy and what it means. As a parent who's written an op-ed to the Tribune, maybe you've read it, I wrote about, and you can look it up, it's under Alicia, probably Gorder. I'm a mom and I really believe that I can handle anything that comes across my threshold. Like, I'm an author and books are the least of it. There's internet, there are all these concerns that all these people have talked about. And I deeply believe that I'm really good at taking care of my kids and expressing my values to my children in my home. And I would never purport to say that I know what's good for any other person who's here. Like, that's their choice in their home over their threshold. But what I want to say is this, is that today at the Board of Ed debate, someone said nothing good has ever come of, no society has been on the right side of history when you ban books. So I believe that the policy, as I've understood it, allows me to say, I don't want this. It's not for me. Maybe it's for my neighbor, but it's not for me, and I can opt out. Am I right about that? Okay, so I feel like we're covered. And I also know that teachers see a lot more children of different ages. Librarians have degrees in library science, that they're probably better equipped to make an overall decision. Maybe not specifically for someone else, but at least to bring it in and say, this is something we think would be interesting, that would stimulate debate, that would be wonderful for our kids. So I have a deep respect for teaching and for the profession. And so when teachers are deciding, I have a little faith in that. And then I read the books. So I don't let a blogger online tell me what's good for my family. If an author like Sherman Alexie is scary, I read it. If like The Giver was scary, I read it and I talked about it with my kid. I know how to read. It's a miracle of my public education. So what I'm saying is thank you for just putting on the brakes for a second. It's a really big deal because there's no state legislator, as I said in my op-ed, who's ever been in my house during homework time, who's helped me interpret anything for my children. I think it's a gross overreach and I really appreciate that you guys pump the brakes. So thank you.
And I'm going to move on, and we can, if we have any other public comment that comes up, we can open it up after we move forward. So I would like to make a motion to adopt policy 9050, instructional and library media center materials.
I make a motion to adopt 960 as stated.
Sorry.
Do we have discussion?
Yeah, I do. I think the big piece of this, and which we've heard real clearly here today, is giving the parents a choice. And that's what's important, is they need to be heard and feel like they have a choice in their child's schooling and curriculum and what they're getting at school. And I think that this does give them the option to have that voice.
Yeah. You're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say that the opt-out clause, reading the books, being involved ahead of time, so you're not creating trauma, because that's horrific and empathetic to that. I think the opt-out is huge, and I want to just say an incredible thank you to leadership. The amount of hours you guys have spent on this and to admin is, I've never seen anything like it. We have taken this incredibly seriously. It's been a huge issue. And so I appreciate everyone's comments, whether I agree or not. I really appreciate everyone coming tonight and speaking. It's a really big deal. And yeah, it's been kind of tough. So the opt-out is really important for me, that it's not forced and that you do have a choice. And
Children aren't silos. They talk to each
This
other.
is not, this is, we're in the middle.
To each other. They're not
I'm so
silos.
sorry, Mr. Miller, we're in the middle of.
I would agree with
Yeah,
you,
but-
but what I would say is that, you know, but one, if we all sit around here and we assume good intent from each other, which I think we do, right? Just like I assume good intent from you coming in here representing your interests, your child's interests. I think you want to do the same for us. We're all parents, we all have kids in the district. No one wants to have pornography in schools. That's the first thing, right? I mean,
But it's
hold on, let me speak.
Grooming.
No, hold on a second. You can throw out buzzwords and you can say.
Buzzword, my tail, it's grooming.
Having a book is not grooming, right? If you're a religious person, okay.
I'm gonna go into school tomorrow and teach that abortion is murder. You watch how quickly I get pulled out of
You
there.
won't, because guess what?
You know what, if you
Hold on,
are
hold on,
gonna,
let me
no,
say
I'm gonna let you say, but if you're gonna continue to talk out of the audience, you're gonna have to leave.
I'm
We are
not
in the
paying-
middle.
I paid for you to be there.
We don't
It
get
is my
paid
next
anything.
dollar.
Hey, lady, we don't get
No,
paid
stop,
anything. We're
stop, wait,
volunteers.
Well, we.
So,
Volunteers.
yes, we
That
are.
are
Believe it or
moving
not.
our children towards pornography,
I'm
pedophilia.
grooming your
Okay,
child.
Stop. Stop.
We're
We're gonna-
taxpayers. We should have a say.
Stop. Excuse me,
We
you
can have-
did have a say and you did have your time to speak.
And you ignored us.
Excuse me, I
You
did
ignored
not
us.
ignore you.
We're technically-
Excuse me, I did not ignore you. Nobody ignored you. We let you have your time at the rostrum. We are in a business meeting. It is our turn to sit down and get our business done and to make sure that our job is that we are in compliance with the policies and the laws.
To make
And
sure
that
you
is
don't
not to
abuse
be
our
screamed
children.
at from the
You are child
audience.
abusers. You are child abusers.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. What I would say, like, again, let me start over. What I would say is that we all care deeply about this issue, and each of the 5 of us represent the people in this room as well as the other voters and the other constituents, right? This is not about what we think is the right thing. It's what, how we can best interpret the laws of the state and the laws of the country. And we're, some of us are lawyers, most of us aren't, and we're parents and we're trying to do our best, right? But what I think my colleagues are trying to say, and I feel strongly, is that, the best policy is one that gives parents a choice, right? And yes, children speak, but they're exposed to many things, including books. Sadly, books are not the only thing they're exposed to, because books, we could probably control the knowledge. But, they're exposed to the internet, they're exposed to television, they're exposed to things that are far worse
Not in school.
than,
Not in school.
it doesn't matter. It's
It
about,
doesn't matter.
now, hold on a second. You have the choice, right? And what's not in this policy that I think is important here is, and a lot of you guys aren't familiar with how policy works versus implementation. There's policy and then there's how policy is implemented, right? There's a handbook. There's the way that the people who are administrators in our district communicate to the instructors and the teachers how to implement policy, right? And so from a practical perspective, and there aren't dates in here, right? Which I think there should be, but there aren't, and maybe we'll amend that later. But from an implementation perspective, we know what the curriculum is before we let out for the summer. Teachers can't just say, okay, I'm going to teach a book on, random literature, and I'm just going to throw it in the curriculum at the last minute, right? They can't make up classes in the last minute. We approve all the classes as a district. It goes to the head of curriculum. The books that are going to be used are known entities. And then it's on us, for better or worse, as parents, to look at those books and review them however we want and decide if those books are appropriate for our families or not. And unfortunately, not everyone has the time to do that, but we have the whole summer to do it, right? And I think what I'd love to see is, from an implementation perspective, is the list of curriculum published, early June before the kids get out. And then any parent who doesn't want their kids to be reading those books can opt out at any time. There's no deadline on opting out. And then any parent who wants to challenge the content of a book under the sensitive materials law that exists in the state, there's a venue to do so, right? And there's a way to do it. And if you want to challenge one book, great. If you want to challenge 2 books, 3 books, however many books, challenge them, right? And as a community, we'll review it. Some of the comments were about the specifics of the policy. They say, okay, you need at least 1 parent. I don't think you probably want 1 parent. I think, to get parents and teachers and everyone to volunteer to do all these books, if we have 20 books, in order to review it, you got to read the whole book, right? For parents who are working, for people, it's extra work for everyone. So let us, we'll go through the process. Our job is to be compliant with the law and not break the law. We're not trying to force anything or groom anyone. We're just saying, okay, here's the curriculum, here are the books. You like the books, great. You don't like the books, that's okay too. Read different books. And the teachers will make that accommodation. And the district will make that accommodation. And so I think, yeah, it's scary to think that there's bad material that's going to go to your kids, just like the internet's scary, just like everything's scary. But I think the one thing that you can take solace in, and you can believe me or not, but you have more control in this situation than you do over the internet, than you do over anything else. And that's because this is a school and we're subject to laws, but the internet and other places aren't. And so, you know, you may go away and think, okay, these guys listened to me or they didn't, but know that we're giving you control, whether you believe it or not. We're saying you can choose what books your kids read. You can choose to leave them out. You can choose to have different ones. So that's what I want you guys to know. And just also assume that, you know, the teachers, they're not groomers. Assume that the board members were parents like you guys. You know, we have similar values to you guys. We're not a bunch of creepy pedophiles. And I resent being thrown into that category because it's absurd, right? And in some of our homes, we may be more conservative socially or religiously than you are. And so you just have to take that into account and know that we care about this as much or more than you guys, which is why these women and the superintendent have literally given hundreds of hours to this issue, this single issue, at the expense of other things in terms of running the district. And it's not an insignificant issue, but they've spent a ton of time and effort. And like, it's mind blowing to me. And all of us, like, we're here for these issues. This is why we're all here, right? And so know that, and know that we're not taking this lightly. And just like when you were here 4 years ago, you know, and the origins of giving opt-outs, the origins of having committees review these books is from feedback directly from some of the same people in this room. And we do take it seriously. We took it seriously then. We take it as seriously now.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate thanks to everybody for bringing input. That's been important in our work on this, and everybody's input, literally everybody's. I sympathize as a mother, and then as an educator, I'm a victim advocate as well. So I recognize the impact triggers have on people, and I feel for anybody who gets triggered by anything. Like, sometimes you just want to shut the world out in all ways. And I appreciate that our job as a board is not to actually impose what I would allow my child to read at home or what Andrew's family might. It's to comply with state law and do so in a way that nuances constitutional law and nuances different demands that our district and community have. We're a public education. You have options of educating your kids in other realms. And if you're not, it's not, you also have placed a great amount of trust in the educators here and us, and that support is super important. I would just continue to ask that we do assume good intent and know that it is about having the, we've been put in a hamstrung place in a lot of ways. This House bill is going to continue to take enormous amounts of resources, regardless of the nuanced language in it or not, which we vetted with lawyers. I'm a washed up lawyer, so I don't actually count myself as one really, but I do believe that it is in compliance. It talks about the selection and the reconsideration of books. It does not talk about going back into the library and vetting out the hundreds. I think those books can be brought to the attention for sure under this law. There's no limit to that, but the amount of resources that will be asked of people who worked on this, and I look out, it's Lindsay, Heidi, it's enormous at the cost of a lot of things that also need to be happening for our students right now. And it's an interesting topic that seems to be taking, maybe it's conflating all sorts of fears and worries. And I relate to the fear. I sent 2 kids off to college. I have 2 kids in high school. I'm terrified of what is their exposure could be on the playground. They go to the grocery store, when they drive down the highway. I don't think that we're not against each other. We are trying to implement a law and nuance something, and a policy and nuance something that simply cannot please every single person. It's not, but we're here to represent the school district, not one person. And that is an important reminder. We want to keep dialogue open. I think that raises the, to do so gracefully and respectfully brings us together, and we can have good conversations then. Yelling, maybe that is, I know, the result of feeling a lot, but I think that is really hard to work with. And hard to listen to and to make action over. I hope that people understand that we worked, and this is as the law. I think there's questions about implementation of this law, I think all over the state. It's not a done deal. I think there's lots of legislation and discussion and work groups happening on training on how to do this. It's not clear cut, and it's been, and that's been recognized at the legislative level and our level, and it's why we put in time or delayed our decision, because it's not straightforward, and we would be disturbing you if we didn't spend this amount of time on this. I appreciate all your comments, and I hope that this is, you know, this is where we are right now with this, and we're into compliance tonight and adopting this amendment. I agree with Andrew. I think it sounds like we probably need to tighten up some operations in terms of posting and what that looks like. And I think there's a lot of clever, creative ways to do that, posting over a certain period of time, but always keeping it open, because maybe somebody doesn't get to read it over July. We want to limit or infringe upon the time you could challenge. Because I think some experiences were given the option. It sounds like some maybe weren't, or didn't feel like they were, or didn't have the time to review the book before your child came home and read it. So I think that's a clear message that those operations need to get tightened up. I think those are fair comments, and I know that Dr. Gilday and her team will keep that at the forefront as we move forward with this policy and implementation of it. As Andrew said, this is not the implementation of it. I mean, this is the policy that we then now operate around. Thanks for your trust.
I know communication has been touched on.
Yeah.
But I know we're voting on this tonight, but, or maybe it's something we address at a later date, but communication to parents in terms of, I know it's been brought up by a lot of parents tonight, communication to parents about the books and what's coming up. Is there anything we want to address on that of giving parents, I don't want to say a guideline or a timeline, I don't know if that's realistic, but something of putting in place of, by X date, you're gonna know the books your children are, you know, being offered, here's your choices, here's your opt-out, or is that too much to post it?
Right, so what does exist right now on the Park City School District website, it's a newer website, we're still working out the kinks. We moved from WordPress into like a content management system, not everything ported over, not everything is as hub-like as we want quite yet. But if you do go under departments and teaching and learning, there is a district literature list. So we do have the list of K-5 materials that are on the approved list, the 6-8, as well as the 9-12. So that's as of this summer. So that list is updated and you can pull that. If your students are in the secondary grades, 6 through 12, you should have received a disclosure form, almost like a syllabus at the beginning of the year from your teachers. So that should have gone out. But operationally, certainly we talked about that. You know, if we did do kind of a bridge to the next year, you know, so as we approach the end of the year, a bridge to the next year, what to expect, and here is the kind of list. I think that is helpful. As our district does move towards our alignment to Portrait of the Graduate and competency-based learning and all the different things we talk about as a state, as well as a community, you are going to see a great deal more individual voice and choice, because that is what that entire Portrait of the Graduate is about, is what engages each and every student in growing, you know, in their career interests, like PC Cats, doing those projects, right? It's that kind of experience that will drive the student's education from the youngest ages all the way through. So as we see that, you're going to see maybe, I would hate to say we'll never see a classroom novel, because being a former English teacher, I really loved having the experience of having everybody read something together. And I hate to date myself because I'm younger in my mind than in my actual physical body, but I remember a conflict that was very serious at the time because it was a different time and place. But it was about 6th grade novels, and almost all of them having a dog that died. And it was really upsetting to students. And I know that sounds innocent now, having the conversation we're having about mature or adult content, but you know, if parents did come and say, isn't there anything we can do to do a more uplifting type of story, right? So there are always going to be those suggestions and that input is very important. Another thing to note with 9050, whether you're looking at the old version or the newer version, is in the materials adoption process, there are parents involved right from the beginning. And there have been since like 1995 or something like that, whenever the policy originally came through. So we do have opportunities for parents to get involved right at the beginning so that we don't have to, be as concerned with the challenges at the other end. This is going to take time. It's going to take time for everybody. We do need to talk about developmentally appropriate. I know the group that was reviewing the material that was challenged was looking at a lot of the things, even some of the comments we heard today. Perhaps there needs to be specific documentation, like almost like that PG rating. Maybe there are certain materials that should have kind of a sticker or kind of an extra acknowledgement so that parents maybe know what to expect. You do a little bit more pre-education of our families. So that's something that's tricky.
I think we mentioned that at our last meeting, that there are other districts that have adopted a rating system, if you will, for books. Have we looked any more into that? Is that something on the radar?
We've been trying to get into compliance. Right?
I understand.
Yeah.
First things first, but is that something we can continue to pursue? Because again, when you look at a list of 30 books as a parent, I don't have time to read all 30 books. I don't. But if I have some idea of what I should focus my attention on as a parent, that's helpful. So I think that might be.
It's hard. I will tell you as an educator, so I was again for middle school, high school. So I was dealing with kind of larger classes, like maybe 150 kids a year. I don't know, maybe as a teacher, what would be, what you would need to notice on or what you might need to notice on. So that's hard.
Couldn't it be buckets? I mean, you watch a Disney movie, like if you have epilepsy, you're gonna probably not want to look at the blinky lights, right? We could get to a point of 5 or 10 buckets of, rape, sexually explicit, and where we could really, so that, don't read it if you don't want to expose.
It's already
it.
exists. It's not like we're going to recreate.
No, that's what I mean. But if it
I
exists,
think we can look at
then it's just upfront, so you're not sending your kid down a path where you can't get it out of the head. The other thing I wanted to say was the one parent in the policy, maybe at some point we could look at. I mean, like up to 3.
You can go up to 3. I think that would be,
Yeah.
a real valid point, is to have more parents on that committee as opposed to just one. Which
Right.
one is potentially abuse.
It says at least, yeah.
It says
So
at
it
least.
has- that does- yeah,
So we
that-
can have more.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody else, do you have, before we go and vote on it, I'm gonna say the same thing. Thank you to everybody that showed up here today. Thank you for all of your comments. I definitely listened to everybody. I read all of the comments that were submitted. I read everybody's emails. I've had conversations. The board is listening. This is probably one of the only policies we have actually sent out for public review twice, ever. So we understood, we heard you and how important it was to have your input on this policy. Again, I know Andrew called out leadership, and but Wendy has been an amazing champion on understanding, because of her law background, the nuances of the bills coming in and at us. And it is our duty as the board to ensure that we are in compliance with state law and policy. And as a result, I feel like through the iterations, through the conversations, through the meetings I have sat in over the past month, that we have done that with policy 9050 to address and keep exactly what Andrew said, that the parents get the choice, that it keeps that choice there. So with that being said, can I please get a motion? Or do we already had a motion, so are we all to approve and adopt the budget or adopt the policy? Can't think of what I'm thinking about now. Sorry.
I motion to adopt policy.
Well, no, do we all in favor?
Aye.
Yes. So that's unanimous. So we'll move with the name. Perfect. We are now back to public comment now that it's 5 o'clock. Does anybody have any public comment not pertaining to the policy?
Oh, I was gonna follow up with a question.
Or with that, yeah, but you have to, if you want to come up and.
Yeah.
Fill it, yes.
So I appreciate, the board, giving us the opt-out options and as a means of trying to accommodate the various, feelings on this issue. I'm concerned that that complies with the law, because as I read Sean Reyes's letter from back in June, he talks about the bright line rule. You're probably familiar with that, and how there are certain materials that just absolutely violate this bright line, and it's the onus was on the school district to remove that, not on the parents to come and make a complaint about a particular book. I mean, are you addressing that in any way in terms of the bright line rule?
Well, yeah, I think if you read the admin rules as well, I mean, Dr. Gilday and I have reviewed those extensively. What the House bill actually itself does not even say. What it asks is that your selection and your reconsideration of books relates to what is defined as sensitive material. And then, so the way we've amended our policy is that you can refer to sensitive materials as defined by House Bill 37, well, not House Bill 374, that references the definition, all of the other laws that reference the definition. You are allowing for the selection and the consideration or the reconsideration of a book through the lens of this new the definition of sensitive materials. That's what the House bill asks you to do. And to have a policy that allows for that selection and reconsideration. Our policy allows for that through this committee that we've created or written about, designed in our amendment. It is not say, like, the problem if you take like the lack of the bright line rule, the issue becomes is that the House bill did not ask me to go in tomorrow. I'm one person and review every single material before we issue any more reading instructional materials or check out a book at the library, to go back and review every single bit of material right now and remove it. If the selection and the reconsideration of it in line with the House bill and the administrative rules related to that House bill falls within that, then we have to do that. We have to reconsider it, and we have to look at whether or not that should be part of our schools. There is an argument that not having a bright line rule and not applying what was the Miller test in traditional, in other cases about obscenity and stuff, is actually, we're nuancing the balancing, the lack of infringement on somebody else's right to have that material at school, to have the opportunity to read that. There's a lot of other arguments on the other side of this that we suddenly get to if you start crossing that infringement line. So the fact that, and there are questions about the constitutionality of that.
Can I ask one other question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in the board's thoughts on how the First Amendment kind of impacts all of this, because I see other, not in 90/50, but other policy that the school district has. There's policy, for instance, on religious and political materials and the way that can or can't be discussed in a classroom with the students.
Yeah.
And, nobody's asserting First Amendment rights to come into a classroom where the teacher has the right to, make some effort to convert a student to a particular political view or religious view.
Right.
So why, in this case, are we? It seems like we're treating this much differently. But I'd kind of like to have your view on how First Amendment assertions, play into this.
Well, I think we should probably maybe move this to a conversation with not in open public comment. I would just say that the House bill calls upon us to create a policy to consider material as the sensitive materials has been defined by our legislature. And we are dealing with that sensitive material definition. And they have not done the same let's bring up religion, outlining what is considered religious or not in the same way. We're actually, the infringement on First Amendment rights is an entirely different conversation. That's not actually the what the House bill, so it's, if you're asking why are we doing this here set differently, it's because the House Bill 374. It's not because
Well, I
there's a First
understood-
Amendment right.
I just heard that the district is kind of alleging some of the First Amendment rights that they can't
No, I'm
tell
saying there was
teachers
a
what
question
they
raised.
can or can't.
No, not about what teachers can or can't do. No, that's not, sorry if that's how that landed. That comment was related to the infringement on First Amendment rights by defining certain material to be pornographic. And so a student, by that nature, we cannot have any of those books in school that includes language that is considered by a bill to be insensitive material, and which is the least of the worries. It's actually considered to be pornographic. Whereas for somebody reading that book, you're now infringing. If you're telling me, let's just play the role, I can't have my child read that book at my public school because to you, it creates it's pornography under the insensitive materials, the House bill that says it's sensitive materials and therefore it's pornographic. You could be, and that could be infringing on my child's rights, who does not read that, or
Yeah,
it's
so
not, it's free language.
it's like
Obscenity is
the opposite
obscenity.
problem, right?
Yeah.
So the way that the craziness about education is that we're subject to federal laws first, state laws then, and then local laws, right? Which normally isn't controversial. It got controversial during COVID, right?
Yes.
Because the laws and the guidance were very different from the federal government and the local governments and state governments. It's debatable now, right? And we've already had, inquiries on the other side, which are saying, okay, there's entities that want to challenge the state law, right? So here we are, we find ourselves trying to be compliant with federal law and state law. If we ban a ton of books, we're going to get sued under the First Amendment. If we have books that have pornography, according to the state of Utah, we're violating state laws. And so the challenge that we have, which is an impossible challenge, is to somehow sit on the fence in the middle and make sure that parents, that's why I'm saying like the best scenario is that the parents get the final say, right? Because otherwise it's a decision that's so far removed from your family, from my family, about what our families should have, what our kids should learn. And that's why it's a tough situation, right? It's not that any of us are groomers or we want to promote some kind of crazy ideology. It's that we're stuck in the middle of bad laws that we have to try to be in compliance on. And that's why it's brought up.
I would just appreciate if you would continue to have, even if you're going to pass the policy today, that you would be willing to continue to have dialogue. There's obviously a lot of people that are,
Of course, you guys are, but you guys are the constituents. It's like, how do we get this? How do we implement it, right? How do we figure out how to do it? And there's going to be multiple iterations.
Yeah.
And, there's some people here who were here 4 or 5 years ago when we had a similar conversation, and it was very respectful. At times it wasn't, but it ended up being a very respectful conversation. We were like, holy cow, we didn't even have a committee actively looking at approving curriculum and materials. We didn't have parents looking at it. We didn't have any type of procedures around it, and that was wrong. And we wouldn't have known that had people not come forward and said, look, guys, this is messed up. And so we're totally in agreement. Like, just like we don't want people telling us, how we should vote or what religion we should be or anything. Like, we want parents to make that decision. And so it's going to be bumpy, but I encourage you and everyone to continue to be involved and get this right so that kids are the ones who benefit, right? No one wants the kids to suffer. No one wants them to have uncomfortable, moments or do things that they don't want to do or be exposed to things that they're not comfortable with or their parents aren't comfortable with. It's not what we're about. We want that's why we live in Utah, right? We want families to decide that. If I wanted to have someone decide for me, I'd live in New York City, right? I don't live there. I live here, right? Because I want families to figure that out.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just put your name down.
So I don't want to publicly comment. I want to just ask
quick question, if you don't mind. Like, if that book, what everybody's talking about, the book was written in 2007, right? And the law existed in 2007 defining what the pornography is. So how that book got in the school?
How long has it been in the school?
Well, since 2013.
This was a one book, one community read way back, and the author.
Can you explain what that means? Because maybe not everybody knows what that means.
One book, one community, or one community, one book.
Yeah.
It was an initiative or a movement across the nation to encourage reading. And typically a public library would select a book or materials, and then all age groups are invited or encouraged to read that book together as a family. Right, and there becomes like an author in residence, and that's the kind of program that was supported in the community by the library, and a bunch of other nonprofits supported that, bought the book, so wide variety of books, and this was just one of those. And then after the book had been talked about in one book, one community, then those people that didn't want to keep the book, I think probably donated them over, and then that just became one of the books that we have enough copies of, right, that everybody can then read.
So if one doesn't comply with the law, the school can accept that for the, as a school.
Well,
So that's where the
but it's
question
debatable,
is,
right? It's like,
But the law was written already in 2000.
right, but like all laws, right, they're open to interpretation by the courts. And until someone challenges that specific book and says this is pornography, and someone arbitrates that and decides, it's not, you know, and it's gray, right? Like there's one family who thinks it's pornography, there's another family who thinks it's acceptable content, you know, and that's where we are,
So
right?
that's where the flaw is in the law. That's what the board was talking about. The board wasn't saying, oh, we like this law or we don't like this law. What the board was saying is that this is a very challenging implementation because all of us are lay people. We are not the ones who are sitting in the federal work, and we're not all attorneys. So it's this law is a little bit flawed because it's asking every school district to make their own decision on whether something is or is not based on training that doesn't exist.
And then just, if that book was written in 2012, usually you're talking about 5 years, you have keep something in the school, but 2012 plus 5 is 2007.
Typically books do stay longer, anthologies stay longer. There is a library weeding policy. However, we weed through books that typically every 10 to 12 years, if something is not checked out regularly, it is removed. So I know one of the books that people had a question about, it was checked out one time the whole time it was here in the library since 2008. So it's not even a book that really caught the students' interest.
So and why we keeping something?
So then that gets weeded as
why
part of a process.
If you don't want to remove this book if you don't want to remove this book as a sensitive material, can you just like say this is like outdated and it's not?
When things are outdated, they can be weeded as part of that policy process. Normal process is weeding materials. When something does come up as sensitive, though, no one person themselves can make the decision. It needs to be a committee all the way through to make that decision. So
But you cannot like a school board say, oh, you know what, this book is already here like more than whatever years. Let's just take it out and let's put something new.
Well, it is being challenged right now, and we'll be the appeal on that. Well, they have.
Now you cannot just call like let's say like a summary removal, I'm removing 20 books and this is one of them. You cannot do it now.
That is not our.
That's not even within one person's purview, as Dr. Gilday said.
Yeah, no one person can do that without it causing a big American civil liberties challenge, civil rights challenge, civil rights challenge. So we would not be able to do that as one person. But certainly as things age out, if people are not checking them out, we do.
But it is a part of the curriculum and mandatory reading is kind of hard.
It's not mandatory.
So it's not mandatory. Remember, there's always an option. You always have an alternate. Not everybody loves all of
You said the option was like a much thicker book, which kids doesn't really.
We clearly need to maybe tighten those operations up, continue to consider those other opt-out books, but I think educators have done a great job at that.
I am asking my kids from so many things, they really don't like it, and they feel excluded, and it's like, you know, it's embarrassing for them, and they're only in the 4th grade. So that's why I'm sitting here, I don't wanna wait 5 more years, that they will be in the position, I will be opting them out, and they will be picking on my toe or whatever. Your mommy doesn't let you read it, you know?
Are you okay if we adjourn?
Yeah.
You guys, I'm gonna adjourn our meeting, and if you guys have further questions, we're happy, some of us are sit here and answer them and chat with you. We also have other board members that have to leave. So I make a motion to adjourn to our next regular session meeting on November 15th at 4 p.m.
Yeah, I make a motion to adjourn until November 15th at 4 p.m.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
I feel I should have been, I thought today to write a text, like, to make sure everyone remembers 3:30, and then I knew you did, when you tried to text. And then I thought, that's not right.
Amazingly, I spoke to Aaron.
Put it in the policy that parents will be communicated with. Like you said, there's gonna be an operation, but we would feel a lot more comfortable if it's actually written in the policy.
Whether it's written or not, it has to be.